I always wanted to have a paid off house. I mean, how
Yeah.
long have you wanted to have a paid off house?
Oh, well, honestly, I didn't know that you could.
And I don't know if I knew that you could either, but I always wanted to. If it was possible, I wanted to, and I
Right.
didn't want to wait till I was 65 to do it. Somewhere along the lines, since we've been married, we began to believe that it was possible,
Yeah.
which I kind of think is the first step and the first key, don't you think?
Yeah, because not only it is actually possible. I mean, I think your old neighbors, I think they paid off their house, and it was. I remember your family talking about it like, they have a paid off house.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, it's a big deal where I come from.
it is. It's a
Yeah.
huge deal. And so I knew that there was like this. Oh yeah, there's just some of those people who like either live there for a really long time or
Yeah.
whatever, and they have a paid off house.
They're really smart with their money. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But then we started realizing, wait a second, not only is it possible, like financially, but then with God's grace,
Yeah. It's
kind of the wind at
actually,
your back, it's like, it's not.
it's not nearly as difficult as we always
Yeah.
imagined.
It doesn't, it's took the impossibility out of it.
Yeah, so much of it is just like to this point of believing that it's possible. It's like, because once you believe that it's possible, then you start thinking, all right, well, what do I need to do to make that
Yeah.
happen? And so you begin making different decisions. Whereas if you just think it's an impossibility and you never even think about it, you're not going to try. And therefore, it kind of is an impossibility,
Right.
So that's just really the first step. And in our case, I think the absolute biggest factor at all in helping us accomplish this is God's grace. Like, there's just no way we can talk about this without saying that. Like, there's just no way, because there were just so many factors that caused us to get this thing paid off that
Yeah. It shouldn't have worked.
yeah, it just shouldn't have happened. Like, mathematically it shouldn't have happened, but we saw that as we started going after this goal and doing what we could do in our strength, God came through and just, like you said, like wind at our back, just like pushed us forward, propelled us forward so much faster through this process than we could have imagined, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if this is on the list or not, but one of the things we did was we started giving giving to the Lord with that goal in mind. And no doubt, I feel like
Which doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense.
You're
but-
trying to pay down this massive debt, so let's give more money away,
But
save
it
less to
does
spend.
make sense in the law of the kingdom,
Yeah.
which is that when you sow,
Yeah.
you reap. When you plant seeds, something comes up.
Yeah.
Like we learned that all in what? Preschool, kindergarten, where you plant the grass seeds and then you watch it grow.
Yeah.
But it seemed to work that way for us, right?
Yeah. On a really practical note, one thing that we did was we put down 20% when we bought our house. Now, that was a challenge in and of itself, coming up with that kind of down payment. And that had its own series of miracles in it to allow us to do that. But if you can put down 20%, it does a couple things for you. So the first one is that, you now only have 80% left to pay on your house. It's like,
Simple math.
You just chopped off a big chunk of what you would have to pay just by putting down 20% down payment. That's kind of obvious. But the other factor here is private mortgage insurance. And so if you don't put down 20%, almost every lender is going to charge you PMI or private mortgage insurance because you're more likely to default if you don't put down 20%. And so that fee, whatever that's going to cost is, sometimes it might be $100 a month that you have to pay extra every single month for this insurance because the lender thinks you might not end up paying your bills. And so by avoiding that, you now have an extra $100 a month that you can put towards your mortgage. And that $100 a month goes a long way. That'll shave years off a 30-year mortgage, just by paying that consistently.
That's
so
crazy.
So being able to do 20% was definitely part of this equation. So the next thing was the Seesaw Principle. We've done Seesaw challenges before, you and I, right?
Seesaw
And
sounding really funny.
who weighs more? So I have another video about the Seesaw Principle where I go into depth about this, and you can check that out for more information. But the goal is that you are constantly trying to free up margin so you have more cash that you can put towards your mortgage. So it's the same idea as a debt snowball. Each debt you get paid off, you now have more cash that you can put towards the next one. So just kind of like that thing. But the goal here is how can you continue to expand that gap, increase that distance between your expenses and your earnings so that you have more and more and more to put towards the mortgage. And just by focusing on that and continuing to work towards increasing that gap, widening that gap, it just puts you in a really good position to really make progress on your mortgage super fast,
Right.
like it did for us.
So you would just do that by making more money.
Making more
Which
money.
sounds really like, just make more money.
Picking up a side
Anybody
hustle.
can do that.
Yeah, that's the thing though. It's easier now than it's ever been. Like there's
True.
so many side hustles and ways to make some extra cash on the side. Like it's insane. We have a whole bunch of videos about that too.
Okay, so that or
Or
like,
reducing
start cutting
expenses.
back what you're spending.
You have two sides of the equation.
So
it's like you
quickly
either
Starbucks
increase
every
it
day.
or you decrease it. But both of them are going to expand that gap so you have more money to put down towards your mortgage.
Okay, and can we just remind them, like, the incentive for this would be to pay off your freaking house?
Yeah, man. It is so good. Like one of the best feelings of my life, I think, when we get that mortgage paid off.
Oh my gosh.
Don't you
it was
think?
pretty, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like I know that there are mathematical benefits to having a mortgage, and and there are people who argue that, and that's completely fine. I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying the peace
feeling, yeah,
that comes from owning your house outright is, it's all it's cracked up to be. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And so if you're not sure about whether you want to chase that goal, it's a goal worth chasing.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think, you don't know what it's going to feel like until you get there, really.
Yeah.
Because, I think it just doesn't compute a lot of times, like what it feels like to be completely debt-free. And
I think when we paid off that first car,
you feel lighter.
Yeah, when we paid off our first car, like that was amazing. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
You paid off your gold Mazda.
It was a bronze Mazda 66.
Whatever color it was. Anyway, when we first got that paid off, like that was thrilling. I remember walking out of the bank. Didn't we have the title? I think in that state they handed it to you.
I don't remember.
Anyway, I just remember like, this is amazing. I own this car. They can't take it from me. Anyway. And not that I ever had a car repossessed, but it just felt really, really good.
Yeah.
And then the house was just like a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
it's good.
If you're going to be reducing your expenses, cutting back on what you're spending, making sacrifices,
it's a worthwhile, temporary,
it's so worthwhile
sacrifice to make.
Yeah, so don't get like discouraged by, oh man, I'm gonna have to just not have Starbucks every single morning or 4 times a day or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in that and look at the goal of like, what is it going to feel like with a paid off house and how much more money will I have? Like, honestly, you'll have so much more money. You can get 12 Starbucks a day.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about having it, that I always said, like before we had it paid off, was just the idea of knowing that the biggest bill that I have each month is like my electric bill. Like the biggest monthly expenditure, I mean, now it's definitely groceries, but you get the point. It's just really, really nice knowing that I could go get a job at Starbucks and like provide enough income for our family because we have the mortgage.
Was it just the two of us at that time?
I don't know.
I can't remember if Alden was
either.
around.
All right.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, once Alden came around, the grocery bill went from like, it pretty much doubled once Alden started eating. No joke, that kid can eat.
And the last one on our list for us was starting a business. And I used to have a mentor who, he told me that the fastest way to build wealth or to increase your earning potential is to start a business. And I always thought, well, I mean, there's some people who have jobs who make really good money. And I think there's some truth to that. But once I became a business owner, I quickly realized that it's a whole different ballgame, because as a business owner, I've had years where our revenues doubled from one year to the next. And as an employee, like my best year as an employee, if I got like a promotion or something, it might have been like a 15, maybe 20% increase in earnings, And most years were just like maybe a 3 to 5% raise, if that, So it's just a very different thing in terms of earning potential when you're running your own business. Now, obviously, there's plenty of risks, involved.
Yeah, and this isn't for everybody. I mean,
it's absolutely not for everybody. Like,
right.
There's some people who shouldn't be doing this. I happen to be somebody who's wired for it, but
find out your Enneagram type and then decide if you should
do
this.
There you go. But point is that there's no doubt that helped us speed up the process so we could get our house paid off and do it in 3 years. The business was a big part of that, just because our earning potential was so much different than my old job. Like, we would have, I have no doubt we would have paid off our house early in my old job, but it was definitely amplified by the business.
Right.
So there's definitely some benefit to it if you.
And not to mention, like, you had control of the finances of the business. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not just crazy business expenses and money just flying out the window on stuff that's not completely necessary, but other people might think that it's necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. Like, you just have a lot more control.
Yeah. Hi, good to see you. If you've paid off your house, or if you want to pay off your house early, let us know in the comments or something. We'll cheer you on. We'll give you a big hurrah.
And pray for you.
And we'll just pray with you that God moves you through that process so much faster than you can imagine. Like, we made a plan, we did our part, and we started down that path, and we just watched God just kind of come in and just move things so much faster than we could have thought.
Yeah.
Like, I knew it was going to take this many years, and like, God just did something completely different. So just pray that he does that for you as well. So anyway, that's all. Be blessed, be a blessing, and we'll see you next time.
All right, bye.